Good morning, you guys. Today is day 52. It is March 25th, 2023. And today is going to be a double day, and I'll tell you guys why after I start the treadmill. Oh, and it sounds awful, by the way. Like I said, the warming get up thing, no, that's not working anymore. Do you guys hear this? Oh my gosh. Okay, so hopefully we can drown this out. Oh yeah, there's the other noise I forgot about. The noise it only makes when I'm walking on it. So yes, noisy. So you guys, if you watch today's video, you might want to turn down the volume a little bit because I'm probably going to sound like I'm screaming, like straight right by my phone. Okay, so today, for the double day, this is video 1. As you guys know, I already knocked out the 7th and the 6th so that I don't have to do a double day, and also the 4th because I can't do a double day on that day. Okay, so today's double day is going to be for day 73, which is April 15th, because I really don't want to walk a double day on the 3rd, skip the 4th, and then walk a double day on the 5th. I just don't feel like doing it. So I'm pretty much taking care of some of the other days. Like I said, the other 2 days, was the 1st and the 2nd. I wasn't expecting to not be able to walk twice, or literally at all, and that was the situation. Okay, so that is what I am doing. Okay, so now I'm happy because April 5th will just be a single day. And then at the beginning of video 2, I'll go back over this really quick, just the day that I'm making up for, and the fact that it'll be video 2. Okay, also, as you guys know, if I have a topic that I think is going to take 2 days, then I said, you know what, I need to take advantage of that, and I have just enough time to go ahead and do 2 videos. Okay, I'll probably just hop right back on and get started with the second one. Okay, so 2 days walk and talk is about my first time driving. Okay, and that is going to lead up to telling you guys about when I went to go get my license. Oh my gosh, you guys. Okay, so that'll come up later. All right, so I realized in the midst of thinking about this morning to make that my topic, that more than one person taught me how to drive. They say, it takes a village to raise a child, and so it was a collective effort. Okay, so first we're going to start with my dad. Hi, Dad. Okay, so all I can say is what I do remember. I don't remember if we went out more than once. I don't think we did. But I remember at the time, my dad likes to have trucks. It's very convenient, like especially when you have to move and you can't afford a U-Haul. Okay, so I think having a truck is just a convenient thing to do. But I think, I told you guys about my first car, and I never told you guys why it was a car and not an SUV or a truck. I might have mentioned SUV now that I think about it, but a truck, and that's because of gas. Okay, so back then there was pretty much a difference. If you got a car, especially if it was a 4-cylinder, you were really going to save on gas. Okay, so I think that, getting a truck and a double tank, never thought about it until I think my dad and my uncle told me that some of their trucks had double tanks, and I was like, oh, that's cool. You can put more gas in it and won't have to fill it up as often. Okay, so it's very, very convenient. Okay, so this time though, my dad had a 20-foot bed truck. Fine for him. I think by this time I knew that my dad had done truck driving before, and I was like, oh, that's so cool, like profession. So I thought, oh, my dad was out on the road, that's kind of neat. But you guys, he's used to driving big vehicles, and I'm not. I'm still not. Okay, F-150, you guys, even the F-250, that's pushing it for me. That's kind of big all the way around, okay? I'm comfortable in just cars, period. I don't want to say the smaller the better because they're not really that safe, but something that big enough. Okay, now imagine, add that to the first time. That's not what he had, but he had a really big truck and it had, like I said, a long bed, and I wasn't used to driving anything, right? Okay, so on the street where I grew up, on all those streets actually, there was no lines in the middle. Okay, so You just drove on your right side, the other person drove on their right side, and then if there was a car parked or something, or if you guys couldn't fit going past each other, one of you would just let the other one pass, and then you would just go on your merry little way, right? Okay, so imagine a first-time driver trying to drive a truck that has a 20-foot bed down a street like that. Okay, no actual designated lane going and coming. So, yes. I laugh about it now, but I was young then. I don't remember how young I was. I just know I obviously I was a teenager, right? And you guys, it just didn't happen. Where I would have to drive so that I could drive past cars that were parked on like my side of the street would practically have put me like in the middle of the street. So that was the first problem. And then here I am in this huge truck. And I don't know if I had ever driven like an actual real vehicle before. You know, like I said, I told you guys about how I learned how to drive a stick, those card games at the arcade where, you know, you're racing and stuff like that. And it just so happens the ones at the Valley Plaza Mall and that arcade had a clutch, right? Okay, so I got to practice a lot with that. But luckily my dash truck was automatic. Oh, thank goodness, it was automatic. Okay, so it just didn't work. We got down to the end of the street and he was like, switch places, right? So I thought, considering I think one person came down the street toward us and I had to like scoot over and then get back to where I was, but I don't think we had the right setting for the size of this vehicle. I just don't. I don't even really think I thought about the fact that there was like no line to divide the two. And so yeah, I would say it would have been kind of cool if we had more space and had the lines, the dash lines, you know, a full setup, because maybe I would probably be a little bit more comfortable, just a little bit more comfortable driving something bigger. Then again, I don't know. Because I always tell people, like, I don't know, I haven't really mentioned that, but you know what, if I remember, I'll mention it at the end of this walk before we start the next one. The fact that my husband wanted to get an RV, and I'll tell you guys, like, why I didn't want to do that. But anyway, so yeah, so that was one of the first times of me driving ever, okay? Another person that helped me learn how to drive was my uncle. And so he had a stick, and it was a Datsun. And it was a really good sized car. It had a hatchback. And so I thought, oh, kind of cool. And I don't remember if he had a truck at the time, but maybe he might. But the Datsun is what we decided to use. Okay, so there was like an area, like on the way to his job, where there would be practically no one on the street, and the streets were nicely paved. There was no potholes, no nothing like that. No loose gravel. Really, really nice streets. So the idea was to take me over there. But I do remember going to church with him and my aunt. And so for some reason, I'm remembering maybe if not that parking lot, because I do remember one of the first times he took me driving, the parking lot was dirt and rocks. For some reason, I remember that crunching noise that the sound makes when your tires go over, stuff like that. So starting it up wasn't exactly the problem. Remember, this is the first stick I've ever driven. It was, backing it up wasn't the problem either. I think I told you guys before, about 3 or 4 days ago, when I kind of talked about this, when I mentioned, like I said, my first car ever that belonged to me, was in my name. The transition between going out of reverse and going forward is, at least for me, not an easy transition. Okay, because if you don't do it right, the car shuts off. Okay, so then you have to start it all over again. Hopefully no one's behind you, because of course, even in the parking lot, they're probably gonna honk, right? Even if they have to go around, they need to let you know that they're getting ready to go around you, just in case you don't see them. Okay, so I wanna say that happens like a couple of times. And then I got a little bit better at that. Okay, at least the car didn't shut off. But you know, it was kind of like you could have got out, you could have walked faster than what the car was going. Of course, I wasn't gonna punch it. And that would have been shut off anyway. So I had got to the point to where that wasn't a problem anymore. So like I said, we went over to this area and we were driving around. and there's more than one street. Okay, so it kind of like makes an S. And so the main street, I think, led to like the dump. The dump was like way further down. And like I said, his job was further over, maybe a couple streets or something like that. So I drove around there, and the thing I needed to work on was turns. And so I thought, oh, you know what? I like the way the Datsun shifts, right? And so I had that down pat, you guys. Let me tell you, not being boastful, I did really well. Okay, because like I said, one of the first times I was driving, plus one of the first times I was driving a stick shift. Okay, so I remember that we went around. Now we're back in the main street, and I'm just driving along. I'm chilling. I mean, there's like a song that just popped into my head because it's probably been playing, and I can't even think of all the words. But and I won't subject you to my singing because not really a good singer. I can kind of imitate some people, but me on my own, no. Okay, so it's nice and quiet, of course. You know, the things that they teach you when you learn how to drive, don't play the radio, some distracting and stuff like that. And so, no radio on, anything like that. And I remember, he was like, LaRae, turn. I'm just driving along. And like I said, it was just comfortable time, right? LaRae, turn. LaRae, turn. LaRae, turn, right? And so I finally I don't know how you want to say, zoned in on the fact that he was telling me to turn, right? And so I was like, oh, and I turned, you guys. But when I turned, I was on the opposite side. Okay, now, like I said, these streets also did not have any lines to divide the lane going this way and the lane coming toward you, but that's the lane I would have been in. And so he grabbed onto the handle, and I think like the other handle that you hold onto to open the door. And let me tell y'all though, okay, before you start making fun of me, I made that turn. Okay, so I corrected it, and I got back over to the side I was supposed to be on, and I could see clearly that I had scared him. And so I went ahead and I pulled over. And so I don't think he asked me what happened. And I just could tell that he was like, oh my gosh, like we almost crashed, right? And so I told him, I said his name, and I was like, Uncle, and his name, I said, I'm so sorry. I was like, I heard you telling me to turn. But the same thing I explained to you guys about how I was just, comfortable, just like driving along. It was a nice sunny day, right? No clouds in the sky, anything like that. And I don't know where I was driving to. I was just driving. And so I wasn't ignoring him. I heard him. But then it occurred to me at the last minute that I actually didn't turn. Okay, and I don't know if I could have went further down and turned right on a different street. But all I know is that he wanted me to turn in last minute. Like I said, I made it. Okay, I did that. And I'm happy no car was coming. So I was like, are you okay? He was like, yeah. And I think he was like, okay, but I think we're done for today. If you know my uncle or my dad, they're hilarious, right? You get them together and it's like a whole comedy skit. Separately, same thing, sound effects, all that, right? And so this is not one of those things. He wasn't mad at me, it startled him. So I believe we switched places. I don't know, I don't remember driving back to the house, right? So that day, a couple days later, my dad asked my uncle, he said, how did she do? And so my uncle said, oh, well, she did okay. He said she needs to work on her turns, and he looked at me and I looked at him and we laughed, right? And I was like, sorry. And so I think we told him like what happened after my uncle finished. So he told my dad, he says, but she can shift like she's on glass. He said, you cannot tell that she's shifting a car. And my dad was like, really? And my uncle was like, yeah. He goes, he said my dad's name. He said, I'm telling you, you almost forget that you're in in a stick shift. You feel like you're in an automatic. You can't tell that she's shifting at all. And I guess different things that can happen, like when you shift, I don't know if the car would jerk, something like that. He named off a couple of things. He said none of that. It was smooth, like on glass. And so she has that down. And my dad was like, oh, that's great. And he was smiling at me. My dad has a really nice smile, big smile. So he was smiling at me. I was like, yeah, Dad, you know. And I don't know if I told him how I learned, but I was just all happy because I did really well. I don't know what made me think that if I ever had a stick shift car that it would actually shift the same. And let me tell you, going back to my first car, the Cougar, it didn't. No. It was harder to shift, to push the shifter. So I was expecting to have the same experience, and I didn't. Okay, so that was, like I said, later, of course, when I got my first car. So next, next is my mom. Okay, so by the time my mom was teaching me how to drive, I was back living with her. Okay, I had went off to college, and yeah, even their sister school I told you guys about, and I came back. Okay, so now I'm back in Bakersfield. So she would take me out like here and there, and I remember the first time I got onto the freeway. We got on, and I actually did pretty well, considering, okay, because now you're driving, but you have to drive faster, right? And you have to watch out for the cars because they're driving faster. And some people think because they can drive fast, they can drive, and that's not the case. You actually have to be able to have control over the car when something bad happens, just not when everything's going well. So kind of always still makes me nervous a little bit. And some people watching me like, are you serious? Do you remember how fast you used to drive? Well, but I guess that's the thought process most people have. I was safe, but it wasn't often. Okay, it wasn't. It wasn't like I sped around in the streets like I lost my mind. So anyone watching that begs to differ, shh, okay, because it wasn't as bad as you're going to make it sound, all right? I can think of a couple instances that you can name, but on a regular basis, no. I'm a pretty safe driver. So, yeah, we get off the freeway, and we were going to Vaughn's on Plans. Okay, if you know where that is, in Bakersfield. And so, my mom, it's funny because she would always have like an ice chest, a small one of snacks and soda, stuff like that. Because, you know, my brothers were with us. And so, she liked, if I remember, sunflower seeds. I remember her popping sunflower seeds a lot. And I think that's what she was doing. I don't think she was knitting. She was doing something with her hands or something like that, if she wasn't eating the sunflower seeds. And so she says, LaRae, turn left. Yeah, you guys notice what I just did, right? I'll do it again. LaRae, turn left, right? And I'm thinking in my mind, that's right, Mama. Like, do you want me to turn right, or do you want me to turn left? Do you want me to do what you're, saying to do, or do you want me to do what you're pointing for me to do, right? So I'm coming up to where I have to turn. Either I'm going to turn into the parking lot, which obviously Vaughn's is like right there, or I'm going to turn right. And you're probably thinking, well, she said left. I know, but she was pointing right. Okay, you had to be there to understand. It wasn't that I didn't understand the two directions. It was the fact that she was telling me to go both ways. Okay, she was saying one and she was pointing to another. So I just kind of slowed down, and I don't know which way I got ready to turn. And she's like, no, way, left, left. And she points this way. And I was like, Mom, you said go left, but you were pointing right. She's like, well, you know what I meant. So I was like, okay, but what if you actually meant right, and what if we were going somewhere else first, and, or, I don't know what I came up with, but it didn't stick. Okay, so I turned left, I go in the parking lot, I go and I park, right? So there would be like these little miniature, sometimes arguments, like with me and my mom while we'd be driving. Most of the time it was about like other stuff. So I would have to say, since I had only driven like maybe 4 times before that, maybe 5, that being able to like concentrate on talking to her, whether we were having our small arguments or not, or just having to focus on everything that was going on the road, I was actually doing okay. So I think, I don't know if we went out driving anymore after that. I think we may have a couple of times. I don't know. I don't think so. Okay, so it came time, we're at 18 minutes and 40 seconds. And now that I think about it, you guys, okay, I have a plan B. because I just realized that once I get finished telling you guys this part of the story, that we'll just be finishing up with this walk. Okay, so since I've already said it's going to be a double day, I had a whole different walk and talk for tomorrow. It was still going to be on like my first this, my first that, but it was going to be completely separate from this. Okay, so I'm trying to think because I'm still under 20 minutes. We're 19 minutes and 18 seconds. You know what? We're going to wing it for a little bit, okay? This is planned, what I'm talking about, but just the time that it's going to take. I thought that this would take maybe a walk and a half or something. Okay, so it came time for me to go and try to get my license. Well, I can add this in. Okay, so you know how you pay and you get 3 chances with a paper test, right? There's like 20-something questions, and then what the DMV does is they have like an A through Z test. That way, they don't have the same test with the same questions, because then, you know, someone can just tell you the answers, right? So, I'll be honest, it took me 1, 2, 3, I had to pay again, 4, I think 5, it took me like 5 times, I think, to pass this paper test, because you can only miss, I can't remember how many. I don't know if it was like 7 or something like that, but yes, it took me about 5 times. Just a paper test. Okay, so I finally had my permit. And so I said, okay, now I can do the license thing. But my mom didn't want to take me to the driving test. Okay, I don't know what was going on. I don't know if she was busy. I know my brothers were small. They're, I don't know, 5 and 7, something like that. They were small. And so I was like, well, Mom, but the next part is to do the behind the wheel and get the license, right? So I think she told me to look in the yellow pages and that there were companies that helped with that. I want to say the idea came from her, because I don't think I came up with it on my own. I was like, oh, okay, let me look. Or I might have just looked in there myself and saw it, but I don't think so. I think she actually told me. And so I looked in there, and there was this company that did just that. What they did was you paid them like $80 or something like that. They would take you out driving twice and give you pointers on whatever you need to improve on. And they will also take you to your driving test. And so I thought, this is perfect, right? So I called them up, nice lady on the phone, we're talking, and I told her I just have my permit. And of course, now I need my license. Okay, and so the good thing is, and kind of the bad thing, don't judge, okay, when you hear this, but I was already past the age of 21. Okay, I want to say, we'll call it, because I was gone for a little bit still, down south in California from school and everything, internships, stuff like that, then working, and so I'm trying to think. We're going to call it maybe, let's say, I might have been 23 or 24 when I got my license, actually. Okay, so that was the good thing, because you know they have like those little rules. So what would it be? If you had your permit and you were 18, then the person riding with you could be 21 and they had to have a valid driver's license. Okay, so if you were below the age of 18 and you had a permit, then the person in the car with you, of course, had to have a valid driver's license, and they had to be 25, okay, or older. So I didn't really have to worry about that because I was already in my 20s. And so we went out and we drove around those 2 times. And the car that you drive around in with this company is the same car that you go and take your behind the wheel test in. So there were different things that people would advise you. Like, okay, go to Arvin or go to Shasta. It'll be a little bit easier to pass your behind the wheel test. And I can honestly say, at least for me personally, that you don't really gain like a lot of experience until you have to drive on a regular basis. Okay, and I want to say I was working at the time. Okay, so I had to move fast. I had to get my license, and obviously I needed a car. So First thing was one step at a time, get the license first, we'll figure out the car thing after that. So here comes the day of when the lady has scheduled my behind the wheel test. Okay, so that's something else that they would do, was schedule your behind the wheel test for you. You just tell them what your schedule was. And it was in Chapter. And so I asked my mom if she would take me, and for some reason she couldn't take me that day. So the lady did come. Because like I said, it was part of the service anyway. And I don't know, I just kind of, I don't know if I was just wanted my mom to be there, you know, to celebrate if I passed. And I can't remember. So I was like, Mom, please. And she was like, well, I'm busy doing this and this. And I was like, okay, I'll call the lady. And I think at that point, that's when I remembered, hey, that's a part of the service anyway, right? And I'll be in the same car. I've driven it twice. Okay, fine. So the lady comes, she picks me up. And Chapter is, I don't know, 35 minutes away from Bakersfield or something like that. So we get there, we go into the DMV, and you know the process. You come in, you stand in the first line, you tell them why you're there. They give you a number, right? And then you go over to the next window. Yes, we all hate the DMV, right? So went through that little process. And I don't know if I was getting ready to fill out the paperwork or what happened, but the lady behind the counter, she says, well, honey, I would really, really like to go and have one of the instructors take you out on your behind the wheel test, but there's a problem. And so I'm like, okay, what is it? And she said, the car is not registered. Yeah, time check, 25 minutes, 20 seconds. Okay, so yes, the car was not registered. And I said, really? She says, no. Now I'm thinking, you guys, I drove out there, right? And so it wasn't as if the lady was driving. I mean, of course, you don't want anything to happen to someone's license, but I'm driving under permit. So luckily, I didn't get pulled over on the way out there. So I said, okay, and I looked at her, I was like, I'll be right back. And I explained to her, I think, the situation before I walked off, which was about the company, how everything works, right? So I said, I go talk to the lady. She says, okay. So over to the lady, and I told her, I said, we have a problem. And she said, what is it? I said, the car's not registered. She said, what? I said, yeah, it's not registered. So she pulls out her phone, right? And she tells me, she says that, I don't know who it was that owns the company, but that they either had another business or they also had like a full-time job. And this was something that, you know, I think it was a guy that he did on the side, and that she was just helping him. And so she didn't know that the car wasn't registered. So she calls him and she says, hey, the car is not registered. You could hear him on the phone, right? And he was like, what? And she was like, yeah, that's what they just told her. And so she can't do her behind the wheel test. And she has to reschedule. And so she talks to him, and I don't remember what else they talked about. But after that, she got off the phone. She says, okay, this is what we decided to do. Number one, we're going to give you a full refund. Okay. The $80 or $90, whatever I paid. And she said, I'm so sorry. She was like, we didn't even realize that it wasn't registered. And I understood because they were both busy. They had other things that they did. This was not the only thing that they did, right? This business that they ran. So I said, okay, I'm thinking, I get my money back. Oh yes, I'm very happy. And I think she told me that go back over to the lady, reschedule. And then I don't know if she thought she could get the car registered by the time I would have to come back. Because with it being a business, I don't know if it's faster to register a car. I don't think it is, but there might have been a teeny tiny small possibility that if they could get it registered in time, that of course she'd go ahead and bring me back. But I think for the most part, we kind of knew that it might not happen because of how long it takes, usually. Okay, so I think I called my mom. I believe, yes, I had to look. Okay, because the lady needed to know when I wanted to reschedule. And so I called my mom. I said, Mom, and I told her the problem. I said, and the lady said that she can reschedule me. And she gave me different times and different days. She told me that she can reschedule me for, it was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right? and it was around 11, I think, at the time. And I said, so now I need you to bring me back. And, you know, what time of day will be good for you? And I pointed out again, I said, hey, Mom, she said that if I can come back by 1 o'clock, that they can do it then. So then my mom says, okay. So the ladies apologized for one entire time. I was like, no, don't worry about it, it's okay. My mom said she'll bring me back. And so I told the lady, okay, 1 o'clock today is good. So she says, okay. So we get back in the car, and I don't remember if I drove back. I think she drove back. She drops me off, and then I think she told me about how long it would take me to get my money back up in the form of a check or something. I don't know if I paid her cash, but I think they had to refund by check or something. And so I don't know if she wrote the check and handed it to me, or if it had to come in the mail or something like that. And I was like, okay. And so I think I asked her, like, what do I do if it doesn't come? Like, about how long do you think it would take for the check to come in the mail? And she told me. So I said, okay. She goes, just call us if you don't get it. I said, okay. So that happened. And I was like, all right, at least you didn't go take a test and fail. You haven't even taken the test yet. And of course I was nervous. Now, if you think about it, like, you just drove all the way in the freeway from Bakersfield to Chatham, you were nervous about your behind the wheel test? Yes. Because, of course, I was still learning how to parallel park, and I didn't know what they were going to ask me to do, and I thought, if they asked me parallel park, oh my gosh, I might not pass. You know, what is it, 1, 2, 3, right? By move 3, you're supposed to be in the spot. And so, I think that's one of the reasons why we went to chapters, because some of the sidewalks don't have, well, actually some of the, I don't know how you would put that, some of the streets don't have sidewalks. So I think the lady, the instructor, had told me that owned she didn't own, but like I said, she was helping the guy that owned that company that provided the car, that they would just have to like pull up and then back up. I said, okay, I can do that. So I already knew I wasn't gonna have to parallel park. And so I kind of didn't have a choice but to go back to chapter. I don't know about now. I just know back then, remember this is back in I graduated then. I had like 3 years. This is back in like 2003, 2004. Okay, so we're at 31 minutes and 5 seconds. All right, so 12 o'clock comes, 1 o'clock comes, and I don't remember. No, my brothers, I think, were in school because this was during the week. So, oh, excuse me. Me and my mom, we get in her car, and I can't remember who drove us out there, me or her. So now it's well, actually, we had to leave, of course, like an hour sooner, right? Now I don't want to be late. So about, I say 12 o'clock, we were on the road. And we get over into chapter, and the lady's like, hi. I was like, hi. I was like, this is my mom. She's like, oh, hi, how are you doing? So they're talking to each other, introducing themselves. And so she says, okay. She says, we're going to go out here. You're going to meet the instructor. And I left my stuff with my mom, right? Except for my permit. I brought my permit with me. And I was like, all right, let's do this, right? First behind the wheel test. And I was like, I don't want to have to do this again. Okay, I don't want it to be like my permit thing, 5 times later, I'm doing this again. I want to nail this the first time, right? So I'm like, okay, just remember, when you first get in, buckle your seatbelt. Then adjust your mirrors. Okay, and then they'll tell you, like, where's this, where's that, where's this, right? So I'm like, okay, I know the basics. People have been telling you about how it's going to go. So they also tell you, like, don't talk to the person unless you have a question, right? And so I was like, okay, so don't be all talkative and stuff. So I'm like going through a checklist in my mind, right? So I walk up to the lady and she has her clipboard and everything like that. Of course, that makes me more nervous because I know that my paper, which she's going to grade me, is on there. And I've never been good at test taking. Luckily, this was not a paper test. Half the time, yeah. C and below. Even though I was almost a straight A student, I was just bomb on tests, right? So she says, okay, we're going to get in. And then, of course, everything just went from there. It happened just like everyone said. Get in. I thought, yeah, buckle your seatbelt first, and then go from there. So she tells me, she asks me, like, oh, where's your signal lights? Where's your hazard button, thing, and all that. So then they tell you to go ahead and pull out. And so, mind you, okay, from what I can remember, I had never been to Shafter. If I had, it was on a cross-country trip, because I ran cross-country and track. Okay, but other than that, I had never, I think, been on the streets. And I don't even know if we had any track meets or cross-country meets there yet. I would probably, well, come to think of it, now that I think about it, actually, obviously we have, because I just remembered I told you guys that I was already like 23 or 24. And so yeah, I take that back. That was the only time I had been to Shafter was for track or cross country. Okay, so I just thought about that, I was like, duh, you were already out of high school, right? Remember that? So I'm a little nervous and everything like that, and I know they said if they want you to change lanes, and if you can't, you tell them, and then you tell them why, like, oh, there's a car coming up or something like that. And then you ask them, do you want me to change lanes after the car passes? Okay, so there might have been that situation, and I think I missed one of the turns that she told me to make. I was not going to do what I did with my uncle, right? So I thought, I'm focused, I'm paying attention, and I believe because of the car coming up on the right, I couldn't change lanes and turn where she wanted me to turn, like at a stop sign or something like that. And so I told her, so I'm sorry that car was right there. I didn't think I could make it over in enough time after. I didn't think there would be enough space. Because you're supposed to be a car length away from the car in front of you, right? So I just told her I didn't think I could get over and not hit the back of the car and then make that turn. She said, that's okay, don't worry about it. So, okay. Now, mind you, she's using a red permanent marker. Okay, so you guys, the whole entire driving test, check mark after check mark after check mark. And I'm thinking, if she keeps marking my paper, it's gonna turn red, right? You could see where the ink was like running a little bit on the paper, and I was like, oh my gosh, I am not going to pass this test. And we're all the way over here in Shafter on top of that, and I have to walk back up to my mom and tell her that I didn't pass this test. I cannot believe this. So I was certain I didn't pass. So we get around to the part to where, just like the people said that own that company, to where she says, okay, so we don't have, like sidewalks here. Okay, so I can't have you parallel park because there's nothing for you to parallel park next to. So she tells me, we're in front of these people's houses, literally. She picked a spot where there was no cars. She said, oh, I just want you to pull over. And I don't know if she told me to drive forward first and then to back up, but she just told me, however she told me to do it, that was supposed to be what could cover the parallel parking part. And I said, okay. So I did that, and I did that, like I said, I nailed that. I was good with that, no marks with that. And then we get back around to finally to the DMV. And so, like I said, I'm looking at the paper, and the paper might as well have been read when she first started, right? Like I said, so I think I saw the score, and I was like, I didn't think that's a passing score. Because it was up there. It was up there. And she says, okay, so you need to work on this. And those shows where they have the caption, it's like 3 hours later, and she was still going like about 10 minutes later. She says, but you passed. And I was like, really? And I think I told her that I thought her paper's going to turn red, and that made her laugh, and she was like, no. She said, you didn't. Now, it was barely, but you did pass, right? Now, I don't know, you guys. I'm one of those high achiever people, and I don't think at the time I had ever been told before that I was a perfectionist or anything like that. And then I remember years later, like in college, someone told me that. I think I'll tell you guys about Miss Towers, and I can't remember if there was an S at the end of her name, but I remember I think she's the first person that ever told me that. And they told me, but that's not a bad thing. And I told her, yes, it is. So for me personally, at that time, growing up, I considered it to be not a good thing. But I don't think anyone had ever told me that before. Okay, because like I said, it was an early time of my life. And again, now telling the story about Miss Towers. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I don't know. Do you guys think, are you not forgetful all the time? No, actually no. But when I get up here, it's different. Okay, I'm trying to focus on mainly not falling. So now that I think about it, I take that back because I just told you guys I had already went to the college and their sister school. So yeah, that was after all this. Yeah. If I had mentioned her, I wouldn't have remembered that. So I had already been told that by her. And I don't think that came into mind at that time. It was just the fact that, you know, I thought I was going to do better. Because, like I said, earlier that day, I literally drove out there with, of course, that lady in the car and back. Okay, I had only driven about maybe a handful of times. I don't even think you could add 10 or go past 10, including the 2 times that lady took me out before she took me up there earlier that day. And so, I don't know, maybe I should look at that way. You know, you haven't driven very often and you passed your behind the wheel test the first time, regardless of the marks. And so we get out, and I come around the car, the lady smiling, and you know, my mom's like, oh, how did she do? And I don't think the lady told her, right? And I think she said, oh, you know, she did okay. So they're talking. So then she goes, okay, I'm gonna go inside, I'm gonna process the paperwork and stuff like that. And so my mom looks at me. Now remember, sorry mom, remember she didn't want to take me up there earlier that day, right? Now, she's like super excited, she's like, so how did you do? And I just looked at her, and because I was sad, you know, and she was so excited to know if I passed or not. I don't even think she noticed how sad I was, right? And so I just walked out, like, what's that word, somber, I think. I just walked all sad and everything like that, and I was like, I passed, and I just walked past her, and I was kind of like, what's his name, Eeyore on Pooh Bear and Friends, and she was like, you passed? You passed? You passed, oh my baby. And like, my mom's a big hugger, right? So she gave me a hug and she's like, you passed. My baby got her driver's license, right? She's all super excited, like I should have been. And she was super happy. And I just remembered, oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm at 40 minutes and 30 seconds, so I'll tell you guys really quick. I just remembered when I told you guys about the tragedy with one of our brothers. Oh my gosh, I'm not gonna cry. But I just remembered when I took him for his driving test in Arvin and what he had did. Okay, so I'll tell you guys about it really quick. Okay, so he comes back, same thing, right? Not seeing him. He comes back and gets out of the car. And so many memories in that car. Like I said, I think the same car. Remember the car I told you guys about, the 2006 that I got into an accident the week of my wedding? Yeah, that car. I think I had that one. And so he comes up and he's walking. All of a sudden I was like, you know, how did you do? And same thing, right? And I thought back to my mom. Same thing. It's crazy. You know, how quickly you kind of have the same experiences that your parents have with you. You know, even if you never have children like me, you know, still, you have siblings. Next closest thing to having a child, right? So I'm all excited and everything like that. And he was walking outside and he was just like, and I think I thought he didn't pass. I was like, oh, you know, don't worry, you know, we'll get it. And he was like, I passed. And then I was like, and he was like, yeah. And I was like, he starts dancing and everything. Remember I told you guys, he could barely say so, he loves to dance, right? And so I was like, you did, oh my gosh, right? And I think the whole huggy thing, right? And it just took me back to when that happened with my mom. You know, except for he was playing, like he actually did really well and didn't have like a whole bunch of red marks and paper because they give you the paper. And so yeah, I thought about that. That kind of made me sad, but his happiness makes me happy. So I'm gonna stop here. 42 minutes, 10 seconds, 2.8 distance, 194 calories. And video 2 is coming up right now. The only thing I think I might do is a time check really quick. Okay, I'm gonna leave this paper up here. I'll be right back for video 2. Remember, today is a double day. All right, see you guys in a couple minutes.